Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Podcast, where we help you unlock your potential freedom through land investing, real estate investing, and entrepreneurship. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today's topic, we're discussing the pros and cons of using a real estate agent to sell your land. I'm your host, Daniel Apke, joined again by my brother and business partner, Ron Apke. Before we get into the show, let's go over a question from one of our featured Discord members. Today's question is from Max. I'm evaluating to purchase a landlocked property and want to try going through an easement process. Correct starting point is calling the neighbor and then do the process through a real estate attorney, correct?
Yeah, really good question, Max. And it's good you're kind of chasing these deals. Sometimes they're going to happen. Other times you're going to have to let them go because you can't get the easement or whatever. So you're exactly right on the process. You need to get legal access via whatever properties you need to go through. So yeah, that would be calling the neighbor, calling. Sometimes there's more than one neighbor you need to get in touch with to get through the properties. Ideal situations are where it's just one person you need to get the easement through. So yeah, it would be talking to them. Sometimes you need surveys. Typically, a closing attorney can write up an easement via a legal description. But you're exactly right. First, you need the verbal of a neighbor or whoever's property you would be going through that they are willing to either grant it or sell an easement to you.
Exactly. Other than that, let's get into the show. Today's topic, pros and cons of using a land realtor while selling your property. And Ron, I want to talk about our business first before we get into it because we've been going more down this route. I don't know if it's because our properties are getting more expensive or we're just finding good realtors or we're staying in the same areas. But let's talk about the current state of realtors for our business.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. As far as we are using more realtors than ever right now, I think it's a combination of like we're becoming experts in quite a few markets. And through doing deals, we have found good realtors. And it wasn't, none of these markets were like this. The realtor we're currently using is the realtor we started with. A lot of times it's through maybe it takes 2 or 3 deals trying different realtors before you find one who fits your business model really well. So I think it's a combination, Dan, of bigger deals and kind of staying in markets a longer time or like remarketing markets. So we're getting these deals over and over again in the same markets and kind of lining up the deals with our realtors who are really good. And it just makes life easy.
Exactly. And the hard thing is, like Ron's saying, when you have a realtor, you're giving them commission, right? Realtors work off commission. If you have a $20,000 property, which we're doing less and less of now, they're going to be making a lot less commission, right? $20,000, 6%, 10%, whatever. They're making a few grand, couple grand. But if you have a $100,000, $150,000 property, 200,000 and multiple of them, 50,000 and up, then it becomes easier to get those realtors. And that's why a lot of times it's harder to use realtors in general on smaller property. And as that's why I said, as we're scaling things up and doing bigger numbers, which we are doing, it becomes easier and easier to get realtors to work for you. They want the business. When you have a $20,000 property, it can be really, you're going against the grain in a sense, Ron.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, like once you start making money for like realtors might be doing you a favor when they're selling a 20, 30, $40,000 property. But once they are actually making some real money alongside of you, that's when you're doing the 200,000, $150,000 deals consistently. That's when like you're going to see how valuable they really are to your business. Also, another thing, I don't know if we're gonna get in this, Dan, is like what I've been seeing personally in our business and when funding people's deals is, and you see it, people are leaving the real estate. Real estate agents are going to real jobs and not working as an agent anymore because they can't make money. Like the real estate market is very competitive right now in terms of getting the properties that are being listed or whatever the situation is. They are having to fight more than ever to list properties because there's not much being listed. There's just lower volume of deals happening right now, which means there's lower money being made overall by real estate agents.
Exactly. And let's talk about finding good realtors, Ron, because that it's not like a house where you're going to inquire, if you just type a quick Google search realtor in my area, you're going to have 200 people calling you or 200 searches come up within those realtors, but land is a little bit different of an animal. We're a couple counties removed, a couple hours from a city, and it's rural America, and the properties are less money, and there's not as many specialists as there are in houses, Ron. And that's one of the biggest obstacles to overcome when using a realtor is instead of just giving it to any realtor, we do a lot of work on the front end, vetting these realtors, making sure they're qualified, making sure they're going to go out. And we have some preemptive questions we use as well to gauge their abilities. I mean, the first one we use, Ron, we just want them to call us back. We give them a call. Do they call back? That'll wean 50% of them out sometimes, literally. And then after that, we have a set of questions if they can go to the property, things like that, what they think it's worth. Give them a little homework. Are they getting back to you on time? Are they getting you that homework? Things like that, basic stuff, kind of like an interview. But let's talk about the difficulty of finding a good realtor for your land business because that's one of the biggest obstacles while using them. It's easy to not use one because they're sometimes hard to find.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you definitely want to find land specialists, people who are at least selling 50% of their properties they're selling are land. I like much higher, like I like only land people, to be honest with you. And typically in markets, you can find some of those without a doubt. The question are they going to live up to what you're looking for your business? And they are going to say most of the time, a lot of these guys are going to say anything in their power to get you to sign their contract. So you got to really kind of weed out like the real stuff they're saying and how their actions are versus like them just saying what you want to hear. They might say that they can sell it for X dollars in 45 days. All right, then they're going to say, all right, you want me to send over a contract for you to sign? So that's what they're going to try to do. Once they get you under contract, it is very, very difficult to get out of these contracts. So you just need, like Daniel said, make them do some homework first. Make them show that they're going to take some action. Because once you sign that contract, that listing agreement with them, it's very difficult to get out of those and you're kind of locked in with them for 6 months. So make them do some homework, make them be responsive to you on the front end before you just go and sign a contract with them. It's just so vital. And there's so many people who just get people under contract and then they just don't do their jobs or they just don't live up to par.
And 6 month minimum. Sometimes contracts are even longer. 8 and 12 months are becoming more and more popular. I'm seeing Ron, especially for land as things slow down, it seems like. But you want to get in that 6 month contract. You want to ask them a bunch of questions. You want to I mean, one of the biggest things is speed in this business, right? So
Hmm.
when you buy a property, you want a realtor lined up to list that property. If they're not lined up, if they're taking a couple weeks, that's time, that's your money out of pocket, that's your deal funder's money out of pocket, and it's wasted time. You want that up as soon as possible. So you always want to gauge that on the front end as well. Hey, when do you think you can get this up by? I'm buying this on Tuesday. I really want this listed next week. Is that realistic? And then try to get them so they don't just so they hold themselves accountable. So there's not just an open deadline and 2 weeks go by and they said they're going to do it or whatever. That's one of the biggest things. Get all the answers up front so you can hold them accountable on the back end, and that will save you a lot of times.
Yeah.
Realtor commissions. What were you saying?
No, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Realtor commissions. There's this whole idea that you're paying them, you're losing money, quote unquote. I'm losing that money, because it comes out of your pocket at the end of the day, comes out of your profit. But it's more than that because all the things that they're doing for you on the back end, I don't like to really look at it like I really don't look at it like that. I look at it like, are they going to help sell the property? Are they taking a lot off my plate? And are they going to sell it in a reasonable amount of time, Ron? But I feel like a lot of people are so like quote unquote losing that money or they're worried about losing that money.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And yeah, you just got to kind of look at everything they're doing. Like if you get a good one, a lot of times a good realtor is going to be able to sell the property for more than what you would be able to sell it for. So there you're making your money back instantaneously. And that's not even taking into account all the calls that they're taking, all the leads they're dealing with, and taking that off of your plate, getting drone photos, getting pictures, going to the property. Like they are putting a lot of time, if they're doing their job correctly, they're putting a lot of time and effort into this. There are realtors who, Dan, like you feel like you wasted money because you feel like they're just sitting out of their hands and you're having to deal with leads or whatever the situation
Yep.
is. But yeah,
Mhm.
if they're doing their job correctly, they are going to pay for themselves 10 out of 10 times. Um, not just with the time they're going to take off your plate, but a lot of times they're going to sell the property, like I said, for more than what you would be able to sell it for.
And with flat rate brokers getting more difficult to work with, more questionnaires, it's just really a pain at this point to list with the flat rate broker. I feel like that's half the battle is the realtors can get it properly on the MLS for you without really any work. And a little bit of math behind that. Let's just say I wanted to get out my calculator. Let's just say we had a $45,000 property round. We're buying for $100,000. And the average for $100,000 property is what, 6 or 8%, somewhere around there, Ron?
Mhm.
So you're paying $6,000 out of your pocket, and if it's 45,000, so you're at $94,000 minus $45,000. So if you have the, and you're still netting 49 before the closing costs and everything like that. So if you have the right margins involved, Ron, like that, it does make a difference in your business, but you're also outsourcing half of the business model. Like you acquire land and then you sell land. And if you can sell it efficiently with a realtor, you're really outsourcing the second half of the business model, which can be a huge relief and pressure off your shoulders.
Yeah, and a lot of realtors like will help you out with the title process so much and like stay updated throughout that on the back end. So there's so much more value to it than just if you look at it. And like I said, this all is assuming you find a good one, and it's not. It's a lot
Yeah.
easier said than done. But if you do, then like they do a ton with the title company on the back end. Make sure the closings staying on track because they don't make money, guys, until that property sells. That's one of the best things about it is they don't make any money unless they get that property through closing and you get paid. So that is the best thing about it, or one of the best things about it. But yeah, absolutely. Like they're putting it, the money that they charge us is nothing compared to their value if they're doing everything correctly.
Yeah, and I guess that's a lot of the pros of using a realtor. What about some of the cons? Obviously, the money is the biggest thing. The risk of getting using a bad realtor is actually a really big con, in my opinion, because you never
Mhm.
know. They're gonna talk a big game until they get that contract signed, and then after they get that contract signed and they're listing the property, it's really hard to tell up front, how they're going to perform. I think that's a big con as well, and then it can, a lot of times, if you have the wrong realtors, really delay the time that it takes to sell the properties.
Yeah, I mean, what I see a lot with the realtors that I don't necessarily vibe with or get along with, or not get along, but just like they don't fit my business model, is they don't understand like what we're doing. They don't understand, or they're just like too blocked off, Dan, and like think they know everything about land, and every 50-acre property needs a perk test and a survey and all this other stuff and a loan and all this. Those are the realtors that like are going to delay things so much
Oh,
because
yeah.
they're not being clear with the end buyers about what our expectations on an offer are. Like I'm not accepting offers 10 plus acres with perk test contingencies. That's just not part of my business. And you got to be very transparent with realtors when you're having them list for you. Like, this is not what we're looking for. We are looking for ideally for a quick cash close. If not, if it's a loan involved, then it's a quick loan close with low contingencies. Once they start bringing in these contingencies and they side with the buyer and say that we need the buyer to want this, then it's like they don't feel like they're representing you. They feel like they're representing, I don't know. That's when the realtor situation can get really ugly and it can take a really long time to sell. And it's going to cost you more money because time is money in this business if you're not flipping your money.
Yeah, and you gotta be upfront with your expectations with them to kinda lay those out up front, because that's typically how they work. They need a perk test on them. They need a survey on every property they sell. They need all this stuff. They want you to have all this stuff, and it's like, "We're not going to provide you all that stuff, so sell it as is, and let's get an offer because that's what we've done and that's what we do." And let's try to get as low contingencies as possible at first. Maybe 4 or 5 months go by, it's a slow property. Then we'll start taking a look at, highly restrictive in covenant offers, Ron. But I feel like upfront, half the battle is just laying out your expectations with the realtor.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. And we had one recently, guys. And I'll tell the story, Dan, because I think it comes into play. Like we were selling a property, we got it insured and everything on the front end. Obviously, with title is, I think we're selling for $150,000 or so. We bought it for 65 or 70, and we got under contract for 150. The title or the buyer wanted to use their title company. Their title company said they cannot insure it without access. And I just told our realtor, I said, that's fine. We're not getting a survey. They're not getting a survey. We're not waiting 6 weeks. Like there's this the buyer's selling point to us because I think we had it listed at 170. They offered 150. They said like they were trying to do a 2-3 week close. I told them I'm not waiting 6 more weeks. I said you can use our attorney that we bought it with. They insured the acreage, they insured everything. There doesn't need to be a survey on this for insurance to get title insurance. And our realtor was extremely communicative with the buyer and just told them the situation because I was ready to back out of the deal and go find another buyer who fit with us. But they switched. Our realtor communicated with the buyer and they switched to our attorney and we closed a week later. Where another situation would be if the realtor fought that and like, no, we need to get a survey on this. That's 6-8 weeks plus on this with a lot more risk. So a realtor just being able to communicate what you're trying to tell the end buyer is so important. That's why sometimes I lean towards not using a realtor because I can talk with the buyers directly.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's a really good story because also if that's someone who doesn't know what they're doing and new to land, like, oh, it needs a survey, they need a survey, they would, sign that right away, extending it 6, 8 weeks, and then you go 6, 8 weeks, and then the survey comes back, and there's another question. You have a whole chance, 8 more weeks of chances of things falling out, and it just really raises the risk and raises the time, which we avoided by making them use ours before we were going to back out of that and find another buyer essentially. So we really, when you have nothing to lose, we're just going to list it again, Ron. So we had the power there in the negotiations, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, like the realtors communicating that made the difference in that deal closing. There's a lot of risk in someone going to get a survey on a piece of land that hasn't been surveyed in the last 50 years. Like I don't know what that survey is going to show. I don't want that risk coming up, to be 100% honest. Not that I have any reason to believe that anything's wrong with acreage or anything like that, but I'd rather just use my attorney that I just closed with insurance, and that went through extremely smooth. So you just need to be able to communicate with the realtor. Ideally, you know how they're going to act and treat these situations before you sign a exclusivity contract with them. But at the end of the day, you're going to get burned sometimes.
Yep, exactly. Expert opinion, Ron, and then we'll wrap things up. Should someone just starting out use a realtor or not? And what few things should they consider while making this decision?
I think if your property is like $50,000 plus, absolutely. I think it's gonna take a lot of work off your plate. I think it is very difficult. Like, some people are calling realtors who they haven't done any business with on $25,000 properties. Guys, realtors don't make any money on this. You're not gonna find a good realtor to sell your $20,000 property. I'm just sorry. Post it on Facebook, post it on land.com. So I think it 100% depends on the price, Dan.
Exactly. So 50,000 and up, 40,000 and up. Explore the realtor options. Get your feelers out there. Call 10 realtors. See who calls you back, and then answer some of those questions. Ask them some of those questions. Give them some homework. See if they follow up. Look at their listings. Go through the vetting process like we teach on. Any last comments?
No, I think that was really good. Yeah, keep that in mind, guys. You build those relationships. Those long-term realtor relationships are extremely valuable to you and your business. We've been really pushing towards it in the last 6, 12, 18 months, and it's really helped our business grow.
As always, thank you for joining. Please do us a huge favor and like and subscribe our YouTube channel and share this with a friend. It really means the world to Ron and I, but more importantly, it could help change the life of someone else. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next episode.